千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. Let's delve into Pu even more deeply and talk about the Pu principle. I want to showcase the key aspects of this concept. When we talk about Pu, the plain piece of wood, we're saying that this is the most natural. This is the inherent quality of something from nature before it has been worked on by human beings. It's a piece of wood that you can find potentially anywhere in a forest. Second, the greatest potential. That piece of wood, you can do whatever you want with it. At the moment, when you find a piece of wood lying around someplace, it has a pure essence, and you can shape that pure essence into something, an object for human use by working on it, by carving it. It can become a figurine, it can become a container, it can become a tool that you use for some purpose. So at the moment, before you've actually done anything, it has the possibility to become whatever you envision. Therefore, it is the point of the maximum potential. Pu is also the most spontaneous. In a human being, you are in that Pu state when what you do, what you say, how you react, your expressions are completely unforced. The coming from the heart, no pretense. Therefore, Pu is the simplest. The naturalness we're talking about here, it leads to a basic, minimalist approach to life. Now, we can apply this term, Pu, to various aspects of life. One of the easiest is to apply it to creative endeavors. And that is a reason why I have these graphics to illustrate here. The blank canvas is Pu. Why? Because for artists, this blank canvas represents infinite possibilities for creation. It lets them express their vision without constraints. It can become any kind of painting, any artistic expression as they see fit. So at the moment when it is still blank, maximum potentialities. So you can easily extend this to other creative pursuits. Consider the unwritten story. When a writer is looking at a blank sheet of paper, that unwritten story has yet to take shape. The writer has yet to begin with the keys of the typewriter. In that moment, the unwritten story exists in its purest form. Endless potential plot possibilities and also endless possibilities for character development. Writers even will sometimes talk about how they will start writing one way, only to have the character in their mind come to life and say that, no, 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 that's not how it goes. Let me tell you what really happened. And it goes in an unexpected direction. That's part of the magic of the pull principle. And consider music as yet another creative expression. Think about just looking at a piano. No one is sitting down in front of the piano yet. No composer has started to compose a piece of music with the piano. So just like it is for artists and writers, for composers, the unwritten song represents the essence of music in its most nascent and primal form. Music, what is it? When the composer jots down the notations in sheet music, that just represents music. It is not the essence of music itself. It is expressing that essence using a form that can be communicated with other musicians. There are so many other examples. For sculptors, you can think of marble, you can think of a lump of clay waiting to be shaped into countless objects. You can, out in nature, look for a seed. A tiny seed holds within it maximal potential to become tree, flower, crop. It's just like a blank canvas in that sense. So, in terms of human interactions, if you consider a new friendship or a new relationship just starting out, that too is like a blank slate. A new relationship is full of potential for love, understanding, growth, shared experiences. I think you begin to see the power of this concept. What about Su, the unbleached silk? This is the Taoist metaphor for the original appearance, and it's been used commonly to talk about the original appearance of you, your true self, your true nature. What does it look like? This is a common theme in Eastern thoughts. It is also known when we talk about self-nature in Zen Buddhism. The question in the Zen tradition is, what did you look like before you were born? So like the silk that has not yet been colored with dye, the true self, your true self, began in a pure and untainted state. This is how we all started our lives. It is only because as we grow into adulthood, our immersion in the material world has caused us to sometimes, oftentimes, lose sight of this underlying reality of the original truth of who you really are. Therefore, the first step in returning to the Tao is to perceive our original appearance, the rediscovery of your soul. So I think this is all starting to make a lot of sense. So holding on to simplicity, we talked about pu representing a plain piece of wood. As I mentioned, the plain piece of wood is also the Taoist metaphor for the original state of your spirituality. So we talked about appearance, now we talk about the state of being. Just like the piece of wood that can be shaped into anything, your spiritual self has infinite potentialities by its very nature. You can become anything as you direct the journey of your life. Therefore, having rediscovered the spirit, having seen it and shown it, we embrace it. And that's where we talk about Bao Pu, holding on to that simplicity of the true self. Here's how it looks. First, showing plainness. When you are in touch with that original appearance of the spirit, that plainness manifests in every aspect of your life. It is being shown without you trying to showcase anything. That leads to the embracing of your own simplicity, 抱朴, hold simplicity. So please note here, we have an external aspect, what you show naturally, leading to what happened internally in your mind and spirit. Now, we talk about 朴, meaning simple, simplicity, to simplify. When we do so, we have a streamlining, consolidating, in other words, simplifying effect on life itself. So the three aspects that Lao Tzu talked about, what happens when the Tao is no longer prevalent, they can all be addressed by Pu, that we can utilize the Pu principle to simplify them, to reduce their complexity back down toward the state of Wu Wei or the Tao that we want, that we would aspire to. So here, I would like to run through the three aspects to talk about exactly what I mean by holding simplicity to simplify. In this table, I have complexity to the left, simplicity to the right. The rows represent the things that Lao Tzu says are insufficient, or the things that emerge, that arise when the Tao is no longer prevalent in the world. So when it comes to sagacity, it is about the human search, the quest for wisdom, the search for enlightenment, seeking some kind of understanding, the meaning and purpose of life. So there are many traditions out there. They all present the appearance of wisdom. So the typical thought from the people who are seekers, who identify themselves as seekers of wisdom, they can sample all of these wisdom traditions to see which one is the best fit, which one is the most suitable for them. And because they are seeking wisdom in many potential possible sources that present themselves as being genuine, wise, and so on, this introduces a great deal of complexity in life. Here's how I would suggest we can simplify. My suggestion is rather than to seek wisdom all over the place, for me, speaking for myself, it will be better to stick just with the Tao. Or for someone who already has a religious practice, use just the Tao to complement and enrich that existing path. From the many to the one. That's a simplifying process. What about knowledge? Well, there are many books out there. They present many schools of thought. In fact, there are so many that it is more than anyone can absorb in a lifetime. And what some people do, I know these people personally, they read one book after another to acquire and accumulate even more knowledge. The problem that I see with them is that they rarely, if ever, put that knowledge to actual use. To simplify that, I would say, rather than to seek more and more knowledge, it will be better to apply what I have learned so far. When you apply what you have learned, the knowledge from books will become living knowledge. Living knowledge is Tao knowledge. It's the knowledge that's actually applied in everyday life. And what about benevolence and righteousness? Here I have the roles as being benevolent and being righteous. And just like the previous slide, we know that we can use the pool principle to simplify this so that we can start to get closer to a return to the Tao. When it comes to complexity, virtues get into a point where there's constant emphasis and reminders on the virtues because they're not flowing naturally anymore. Because of all those reminders, people are reminded to demonstrate 仁, loving kindness to one another. So they pretend to be nice even when they do not feel that way. This goes toward what we were talking about, how something that is forced, a virtue that is forced, can be fake. It can be very artificial. And because of the many reminders that people are subjected to, the many rules they have to follow, there's that complexity associated with it. We can simplify all of that to the Tao by cultivating the benevolence that are already part of our nature. That way, the reminders are completely unnecessary because we've become naturally, genuinely nice. It would actually take an effort to not be what we naturally are. What about being righteous in the sense of being fair, being just. So there again, there are numerous reminders to do the right thing, to be just, but then the complexity comes because people come up with their own interpretation of what is right and just. These interpretations are usually based on self-interest. And that's how things get complex and messy. To simplify, I would again look to the Tao. Follow the Tao to do the right thing and being just. The guidance of the Tao is based on timeless principles rather than self-interest. So it cannot get complicated or messed up like the way it can be when you are counting on people to not consider their self-interest when they're figuring out what is the right thing to do. More often than not, the right things to do turns out to benefit them personally rather than to benefit people in general. So this is how we can be better, be closer to the Tao, be aligned with the Tao, while simplifying the complexity significantly. Lastly, there's cunning and profit. Cunning is the misuse of intelligence. Profit here is in the context of greed. When it comes to cunning, what we see happening when the Tao is no longer prevalent is that people use their shrewdness and cunning, their cleverness, to come up with deception, deceptive tricks. They're trying to gain some sort of advantage for themselves. They make things more complicated, not just for their victims, but for themselves as well. The more tricks there are, the more convoluted these schemes become, the more complexity we see. So it goes without saying that we need to simplify this. Following the guidance of the Tao, using intelligence to not to deceive, but to build solutions that benefit everyone. This alone has a simplifying effect because when you build solutions for everybody, you solve common problems. You're making things easier for everybody around you. It's a benefit all around. Lastly, we have the profit motive or the excess of motivation for profit, which is just another way to describe greed. People will do just about anything in pursuit of profits, making false claims, exaggerate, gloss over certain things, cut corners, and so on. The end result never turns out well. We see this time and time again in our daily lives. So here, to simplify through the pool principle, rather than to chase profits, if this is an enterprise we're talking about, a business, then the better approach is to prioritize making services or products of greater value to clients or customers. The Tao sees to it that profits will take care of themselves. It is not something that we have to chase specifically. We follow the process to improve, and the profits follow. So this is the third and final example of how we would use Baopu to simplify the complexity of what happens when the Tao is no longer present as much in the world. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.